There's something about vinyl that just makes it really appealing. It's just a great classic music experience. But a record by itself doesn't get you very far. You need a turntable, and that's what we're going to check out. Dave Taylor here, feeling pretty nostalgic. I grew up with vinyl, with long playing LP albums, and having a turntable and going through the ritual of putting it on the turntable and cleaning it as needed, and then spinning it up and moving the turntable arm so that the cartridge needle goes just in the right spot, and then enjoying the music. There are millions of albums and records out there, and you can typically get them at an incredibly good price at a used record store. But that turntable. So enter this. This is really a great idea. This is the Stackstone Savage the One record player. Why is it called Savage the One? I have absolutely no idea, but it's a really cool record player because it has built-in speakers. So it is a belt drive turntable, which means that under the platter, there's a disc and a band that goes to the motor, and then that is how it turns things. So if I turn this on, then let's see, it starts turning the record. So it's ready to go. And one of the other smart pieces of design they have here is you notice there's a space between this portion and the speaker. That goes all around because they have a dual layer vibration isolation. And that's pretty important because you don't want it where if you touch the table or the surface that the turntable's on, you don't want it to bounce. Having said that, you also need to balance the tone arm so it's not pushing too hard, which will be bad for your records, or being so light that if it hits a dramatic passage, it literally just bumps up and then bounces back down. You don't want either of those. And so for that, you need to be able to adjust it. And so that's what they have here. That's what this whole back assembly is there's an adjustable anti-skate system, and there's a counterweight that should be just about the same weight as the cartridge itself. And this is something you can adjust so you can get the balance just right. Now, let's actually try a track. So I'm going to just put it into the middle. It's a little hard from this angle, but then I'm going to drop it down and turn up the volume. Okay, so I am picking very nostalgic music. It's a bit loud there. But you can hear it's actually really nice sound. They've done a really good job here. I'm going to lift it up again, which you should do with this, not by using this, though it does have the little handle. Depends how steady your hands are. But let me tell you some more specs, and I'll show you some of the other features too. So it has 78 decibels of sensitivity with a signal-to-noise ratio of 89 decibels. And it has built-in 12-watt speakers. Behind here and on the sides, there are 2 tweeters, 2 mid-range speakers, and 2 bass reflex tubes to get the maximum bass out of the system itself, giving you a pretty darn nice sound. I'll come back to the sound in a minute. It also supports Bluetooth, but disappointingly, it's not a Bluetooth transmitter. It is a Bluetooth receiver. So if I flip this switch up to Bluetooth, then it will be paired with my phone. And let's double check that that pairing worked. And where are we? And it looks like it did. So now on my phone, I could pick some music like this. Adjust the volume. So I can use this as a Bluetooth speaker independent of it being a turntable, which is a nice additional bit of functionality. But I know what you really want. I'm going to stop that. Maybe stop that. There we go. What you're really curious about is, okay, can I hook this up to other speakers? And the answer is yes. Let's have a look at what's on the back. There's a ground connector if you find that you really need to ground this to get rid of any sort of hum that you might have from your electrical system, and phono and line out switch, and phono and line out jacks, and fine adjustments for speed for both 33 1/3 and 45. And there's that DC input jack. One of the other things that's important to consider is the cartridge itself, because this really does much of the work. And this is going back to, gosh, what, the 1700s? It's a long time ago that people figured out that if you had wavy lines on a piece of vinyl or plastic and you ran a very sensitive needle over that, it could pick up those variations and then be amplified into producing actual sound. And that's exactly what this does. And the cartridge they've chosen is a nice one. It's the Audio-Technica AT3600L magnetic cartridge. Here's a close-up. Doesn't look like much, but it is probably the most important component here. And again, I'm going to switch back to LP, and I'll let you have a close-up as I put the needle down on the album.
I was doing all right.
It's pretty nice. Now, I admit, it's tricky to get all of the balances correct. And one of the ways that you can test it when you're getting this adjusted yourself is that it should be able to play the innermost track, and it should be able to play the outermost track without any bouncing or skating. And you'll know if you have skating issues, because literally the needle will just sort of bounce along towards the center. And I remember from the old days when I had my original record player that was just something that you just kept fiddling with. So I appreciate that once I've got this set up, it'll be great for a good long time. Now, it comes with everything you've seen. Here's a close-up of the controls on the top, so you can see that it supports both LP or record player mode and Bluetooth. And on the other switch, you can go between 33 1/3, which is big albums, and 45, which were little albums. And then you have the on, off, and volume control. So those are all the primary controls here. There is a 45 adapter, because remember, 45s were the smaller albums, but for reasons I cannot tell you, they didn't have a small hole for the spindle. They had a big hole for the spindle, so everyone had to have these adapters to make it work on their record player. They also include, conveniently, a little piece of bamboo that you can put your album cover on, just purely for show. So you can have it if you are, for example, a cafe or a bookstore, or you have an antique store. You might have this behind the register, and then the album cover you actually have shown here. So when people come up and say, "What am I listening to?" you could just be like, "There, that's what you're listening to." Includes instructions, and I do want to show you one more thing that I'm actually not a big fan of. I'm going to take the album off. We're just going to put it here for a moment. This is not a recommended storage strategy, but that's okay, because it also comes with this dust cover-ish thing. And so the idea here is that you put it on the spindle, and now you have this cover for when you're not using the record player. Don't do this with an album on your record player. That will not end well. I am not a big fan of this particular piece, so I expect I will just leave it in the box, but this might be something that you find useful. I'm more used to record players that have a sort of large plastic cover over the whole thing, which is more typical, but this is a little more streamlined. And of course, it does have the built-in amplifier and the built-in speakers, so it's not exactly like most turntables on the market. So let's put this back on. And that's pretty much what we have. So I'll tell you dimensions-wise, it's 16.5 inches by 14 inches by 7.8 inches, and it's pretty heavy at 21 pounds. And that's because you want your turntable to be heavy, because you want it to be stable. And remember, this top part, and you can see here, it is independent because it has vibration isolation. So if things happen, like someone puts a cup down on the table, it's not going to cause your album to suddenly skip or anything. So really, lots to like here. So let's talk about that sound. It's not great sound. It's good sound, it's listenable sound, but the louder you make it, the more it sounds like it's not really going to be super high fidelity. But that might be sort of a retro thing too. If you have it on low to medium volume, it actually does sound really nice. And these speakers, you want to have them pointing in the direction you want to be listening, but it does give you nice sound. So I guess my biggest criticism is if you want to really crank it up, then you're better served by plugging in an amp and speakers that can handle that than trying to get this to be as loud as possible. But to me, the whole experience of having a record player is something a little bit more chill, a little bit more zen. Maybe it's just because I grew up listening to jazz, but be that as it may, this will play any sort of music. If you want to use acid rock or classic 70s hair metal or something, then it can handle that too. It doesn't really care. Obviously, it's completely agnostic. So really fun device. It's really, if you have stacks of LPs, this is an all-in-one unit. There's a little bit of assembly involved when you first get it, but put aside like 15 minutes, you'll get it all set up, you'll be ready to go, and then everything that's just been sitting and collecting dust will suddenly have a whole new life, and you will have so much enjoyment with this. Really a solid option. I am going to invite you to subscribe to my channel. Click or tap on that subscribe button. Hit that bell icon for notifications. Do me a favor, give me a thumbs up. Excellent. This is the Stackstone Savage the One record player, and it is $249.99 at Amazon.com. If you have no albums, this is a great way to get started, but especially if you have stacks of albums or boxes of albums, it will be so fun. There's such a wonderful sense of nostalgia, for me at least, when I'm going through some albums that I've had for a super long time and playing them with this and be like, oh yeah, and it does sound different. It is a qualitatively different sound than if you're listening to a CD or you're listening to a digital stream or something. People still love this stuff, and there's a reason for it, and this is a great way to get started. That's what I got. I'm going back to my music, so I'll hope to catch you in my next video.